Welcome back, Senior Devs. Sean Cannon here. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the difference between being special and being exceptional. When you've been working on a project for some time, you start to become really comfortable with both the stack and the process. There's something about being able to predict and anticipate your surroundings. You can really let your subconscious take over and free up your frontal lobe to deal with more important things like solving complex problems. If you are constantly being distracted with process changes, or if you keep having to check the docs for syntax on a library that's new to you, it's really difficult to get into flow state and can really take a toll on your mental health. What often happens is that you get used to maintaining a certain velocity and mental state, and when you decide to transition to another project, maybe at another company, it can feel like starting over. Your velocity is at risk of significantly dropping if too many aspects of your day-to-day change at the same time. It's kind of like driving in the city the first time if you live in the suburbs. Most people need to turn down the radio and really pay attention to the street names and whatnot because it takes that much more mental energy to accomplish literally the same task they were just doing in the past several minutes getting to the city. The only difference is it's the new environment. So all this said, it can be really tempting when you start a new project to make suggestions to the new team that simply redirect them back to the stack and process from your previous project. If you were using Pivotal at your former position and the new position is using Jira, it makes sense that you would want to hint to the product team that Pivotal is superior to Jira, when in reality, they're both just tools that accomplish basically the same thing. Another example may be like a library. In JavaScript, if you're very comfortable with React, but the new project is using Vue, you may find yourself wanting to complain about it and talk down Vue and talk up React. The problem with the two examples I just mentioned is that they are parallel changes. Imagine you did convince the product team to switch to Jira, or you did convince the engineering department to switch to React. In reality, the teams are no better off than they were before. Most likely they're worse off. And the only person who is happy about it is you, because now you have a knowledge advantage and can look like a rock star. This mentality is really common, and it can be as insignificant as arguing that underscores are better than camel case, or 4-space indent is better than 2-space indent, or tabs are better than spaces. At the end of the day, if you're joining an existing project with an existing stack and process, what you want to do is let go of any personal preferences you have from your previous experiences and embrace the opportunity to add new tools to your belt. It's okay that you won't be great at these tools. It's actually surprisingly easy to ramp up on the new tools the more times you switch tools. You'll start to notice how often these libraries copy each other and really only offer a few small improvements over another library, but fall short in other areas. One way to expedite this process, which we'll cover deeper in a later module, is to constantly be experimenting with new tools in personal side projects. Don't go crazy and build huge applications, just do some hello world stuff here and there and get your bearings and you'll be fine. One really solid approach is to have a constant app, like a tic-tac-toe app, and rebuild it over and over in various frameworks. If you can achieve the exact same deliverable regardless of the tools used, you'll grow a huge appreciation for how insignificant the actual tool is on any given project. A special dev says, "At my old job, we did it this way." An exceptional dev says, "However you want to do it is fine. I found success with a few ways, and I found that other ways cause some headaches we may want to avoid." When you're able to present options and show that you're bringing an unbiased experience to the table, and your goal is to help the project and team and not simply make your job easier, your credibility will go through the roof. People will come to you more and more for your advice on things because they know that you're not just going to give them a sales pitch. For example, Lodash claims to be better than Underscore because it's so much faster. In my experience, who cares? Hardware is cheap. And if we're to the point of micro-optimizing our app, then we're basically done with the app, and by that time, I'm transitioning off the project and starting a new one. Any junior dev can swap out Underscore with Lodash. It doesn't need to be you or me. That said, a functional library like Ramda is significantly better than Lodash. Lodash literally admits several times in their docs that their functions mutate the data that you give it to them. Mutation is terrible. It causes side effects and confuses everybody working on the project. Bugs caused by mutation are extremely hard to reproduce and track down, and the only reason they do it is to save a few kilobytes of memory and a few milliseconds of processing. Ramda clones objects and arrays, so there are virtually no side effects. The trade-off is that it's a functional library, so it has a bit of learning curve, which means I typically don't recommend it to existing projects that already have a solid process. What I do is mention the risks of mutation and point out that Lodash mutates, so we should be very careful and conscious about that risk, and that if it becomes a problem, I can recommend some alternative libraries that will simply eliminate the risk completely. I wanted to make this module because I see this happen all the time, and I don't think anybody is ever really aware that they're doing it. I'm guilty myself. I did this for years for things that I look back on, and I'm embarrassed that I thought they were so important that I had to put my foot down. I can think of 100 things that I used to firmly believe were right until I tried other ways and realized it wasn't the syntax I really cared about keeping, but rather the feeling of not having so much to think about. The good news is that the more you change things up and adapt to whatever environment you're thrown into, the more you'll be able to code in flow just by using your peripheral and matching the surrounding syntax. Using tools like a linter or static analysis help a ton when you're first starting out. The underlying takeaway here is that you don't want to make your new employer accommodate you. Avoid suggestions that they do things your way, because really, if you have a way, then you're just wearing your inexperience on your shoulder. If you're going to make any suggestions, they need to help the project grow, not shift. A sideways change can make you appear selfish and incompetent. A forward change can make you appear valuable. Whatever changes you recommend, your number one goal is to not break anything. Do not be known for breaking things, be known for fixing things. If you see any problems the team is facing that your previous team didn't face, then absolutely mention to them that they may find success by adopting that previous process for this one thing. This becomes even more critical on client projects versus employer projects. I currently do most of my work at an agency in San Francisco called Presence, and while some projects are greenfield where we get to decide the stack, very often we have to work on existing and legacy client systems, which may be using 20-year-old code. There is no way I'm going to tell a client to change anything about their decades-old code base. Legacy code is fragile, and if it works, it works. Leave it alone. Create integration points and separate your new code entirely when possible. To recap all of this, every code base is different and every team is different. Don't make teams accommodate you. Instead, go out of your way to accommodate their needs and help them rise up as a group. Every new project is a new opportunity to be a leader versus a complainer. Match existing patterns before suggesting new ones. Prove growth opportunities, not change opportunities. That wraps up this module. Keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one.